It's a changing world. As America moves forward, women are taking the lead, inspiring, leading, dominating. Colorado is home to just some of these amazing women. In this Denver7 special report, we're celebrating the women who've made an impact on the Centennial State and left their mark on history. Hello, and thanks for joining us. I'm Molly Hendrickson. March is Women's History Month, and we've been sharing stories all month about the women in Colorado. This Women's History Month comes amid the coronavirus pandemic, which has throttled businesses in many industries, but especially for women. A recent study shows women-owned businesses are less likely to see a strong recovery after the pandemic. So we want to start with a story of resilience, a story of a Denver woman who's refusing to be a part of those statistics. Here's Denver7's Addie Guajardo.
Adornments. It's been around 24 years. The big windows and stylish clothes off 3rd Avenue in Denver reel in customers.
I think everybody was scared.
Consuelo Diaz worked at the boutique, and when the owner, also a woman, decided to retire,
Because it was a no-brainer.
she took over.
Then 6 months later, we were hit with the pandemic.
Cherry Creek North is home to more than 150 small businesses. Nearly half are co-owned by women. Women fighting to keep their doors open. COVID-19 has impacted women-owned businesses at a greater rate compared to their male counterparts. And a recent study by the U.S. Chamber of Commerce found that women business owners are less likely to see a strong recovery.
We saw the sales drop quite a bit.
But she didn't let up.
I think when you have women that are just have that fight to survive, which is what I had, because I'd worked too long at this little store to let it go under.
Diaz sprang into action,
We cut back wherever we could.
and her team got to work.
So we just came in here, photographed things.
She took her shop online and got creative to help sales during a time many people didn't have events to shop for.
What are you wearing for Taco Tuesday? What are you wearing for your Zoom meeting?
A recent survey shows less than half of women business owners surveyed in July believe revenue will increase in 2021 and are less likely to invest in their business or increase staffing compared to male owners. But Diaz has a brighter outlook on her business motto.
So I always keep saying it was 3 older women that jumped into action.
Action that's propelling her business.
I think the more of the population that gets vaccinated, I think the better it's going to be. I really do. I think that's the silver lining right now.
Addie Guajardo, Denver7.
Our next story isn't just about holding fast during the pandemic. It's about finding a way to stop and smell the flowers. Monica Michelle thought the restrictions and shutdowns brought on by the pandemic called for a change of pace. So she turned a longtime love of flowers into a business.
I buy myself flowers every single week. It's something I've done since I was a kid in college. And I started researching some of these online flower shops and companies and saw that there were really no educational resources around flowers. Saw the need, and I decided it was time to fill that need and start educating people on all the healing benefits of flowers.
Michelle quit her full-time job to launch her flower education video series Bloom TV during the pandemic. That, of course, hasn't come without its challenges, but she says the entrepreneurship and being part of a special community of business women in Denver has been fulfilling.
I'm so grateful for the opportunity and experience because being a woman in this space, it gives you some edge, I think, and sometimes you have to get creative. But the good news is that especially this area that we're in, there has been so much support around it.
To learn more about her business, you can head to bloomtvnetwork.com. The pandemic has given us all a chance to reflect on what's important to us. And for the woman you're about to meet, it was the environment. Jessa Robach is the CEO and co-founder of Vita Luz. The idea behind it is to develop communities centered around sustainable living.
As a basic human right within our communities, we really believe that it shouldn't be more difficult to choose things that positively impact the planet, especially as cost as a barrier of entry, as well as attacking all of these problems with food deserts and food supply issues. We want to directly connect people to nutritionally dense food within our communities.
Vida Luz is coming to Colorado in the near future and is looking at several spots outside Denver for their sustainable micro-cities. Roebuck says this model is necessary to not only have comfortable living, but conscious living. Vida Luz is not only building new communities, but fostering a new lifestyle. And that's no simple feat, but Roebuck says being a woman in charge of the concept has its advantages.
We are big picture thinkers, and big thinking really means big change in the world, and that's really what we're going for. So being a woman-founded business, that's an advantage. But the challenge is it's every single day that we're seeking to prove ourselves in a new space.
To learn more about the innovative community coming to Colorado, you can visit vidaluzdevelopment.com. The challenges brought forth over the last year have created new problems and compounded old ones, among them alcohol abuse. In 2019, studies showed 25% of adults said they were binge drinking, and the National Institute on Alcohol Abuse and Alcoholism expects that number to increase for 2020. But right here in Colorado, one woman is combating that trend with coffee. Denver7's Veronica Acosta has that story.
From the outside looking in, Wagon Coffee seems like a bigger operation than it is.
We have this tiny little space, and it's just our safe space.
A safe space created by Tammy Camaday, whose husband struggled through addiction. After his recovery, she wanted to help others.
His service keeps us sober. So how can I give back? How can I show up? How can I serve?
She chose one group in particular, women in recovery.
I'm an addict. I'm an alcoholic. So I got sober in 2016. And so I've been sober about 4 years.
Kavita is one of two women who roast, bag, and scoop coffee for Wagon Coffee. She's been here since the start back in October, busy with beans.
They're a part of my sobriety. This is a part of my sobriety.
But it's about more than just making coffee for her. She credits the process with helping to keep her from relapsing.
I have been on the fringes for decades, and to be able to be in a place where I'm loved, I'm wanted, I'm embraced, I'm sought out. That's a gift that I never got before.
An opportunity Tammy hopes to be able to extend to other women in recovery soon. Veronica Acosta, Denver7.
To another Colorado woman helping on the road to recovery. The Yolt Foundation focuses on educating about organ donation, but also supports recovery after donation. Yolt stands for You Only Live Twice. The organization was first started 3 years ago after Gavin Class, a college football player, unexpectedly collapsed during practice and later found himself in need of a liver transplant. His family created the foundation to share his story and help others recognize the value of life. Gavin's girlfriend, Rachel Karwacki, is the executive director of the Yolt Foundation. She says the idea behind it is following your heart, and she hopes more female leaders take the leap of faith like she did.
If I were in front of someone and had the opportunity to tell them, just take the step of faith. It doesn't hurt, and you never know what's going to come out of it. And the worst thing is, hey, you fall flat on your face, but you get back up and you keep going.
You can learn more about the Yolt Foundation's mission at yoltfoundation.org. They say diamonds are a girl's best friend. They aren't usually talking about this kind of diamond. After the break, the woman at the helm of a Denver men's baseball team. And cracking the code, how one woman made a shortcut for others like her to get into the coding industry. Welcome back to our Denver7 special presentation celebrating women changing history. One of the largest gender barriers exists in men's sports, and that barrier is starting to come down. Earlier this year, the Washington football team named Jennifer King their running back coach, making her the first black woman coach in the NFL. At the Super Bowl, we also saw the NFL's first female referee making calls. And right here in Denver, Kristen Genter manages the Whooping Cranes, a men's baseball team. Denver7 sports anchor Troy Rank has her story.
When does history beckon? How does it become a reality? For Christian Ginter, the answer was quite simple. It happened slowly, 5 years of taking statistics, and then it manifested in a blink.
This last year, I was asked if I would manage the team because I'm at every game anyways.
Ginter leads the Whooping Cranes, a men's adult league baseball team in Denver.
I never thought I could get into baseball as a kid. So it was never just like, my dream growing up, because I was like, oh, I can't. I'm a woman, so I'll have to do something else and then just love baseball. And then it's really, really cool being able to actually be immersed in it. And you respect the sport even more.
Matthew Replinger runs the Denver Browns, an adult league powerhouse team. The Whooping Cranes became a Browns affiliate this season. Travis Smith, the Browns director of player development, told Replinger about Ginter, about why she was such a good fit. The Browns boss agreed, seeing IQ, not gender.
It shows us what is possible. There really are no restrictions on a woman, on what a woman can do on a baseball field in regards to showing intellect, and there's no reason that a woman can't manage a men's baseball team. In fact, I think it'll give us a lot of benefit.
As for Ginter's managerial style, let's just say it's a blend of numbers and a sense of humor.
I'm very sarcastic, but I mean, yeah, so I think the benefit is I've been around the team for so long, and a lot of our guys have been here as long as I have. So knowing their personalities definitely helps with who you approach and how you approach them. And then, when you have the numbers to back up your own theories, it really does help. I think it helps being a female as a manager because they open up to you a little bit more, which is nice. And there's no judgment, which is good.
When Ginter took over last summer, it felt natural. She grew up playing lacrosse, won a state title. She understands what it's like to be in the arena. And the players, they trusted her eyes and her insanely detailed Microsoft Excel spreadsheet of statistics.
She's pretty much the whole brains of the operation when it comes down to us. She tells us what to do, where to go, and even if we needed like an extra player or something, she would put on her baseball gear and head out there with us. So it's just I don't know. She's very enthusiastic. She loves the sport. You can definitely tell that she's definitely one that we could go to war with.
Ginter doesn't sleep much. Before managing this summer, she will finish her doctorate at CU in engineering. She has interned at NASA. Yes, she knows baseball is not rocket science. It is a game she loves dearly and proudly serves as a pioneer.
I always think it's so cool that women are getting a more prominent role in the sport because you don't have to play it to know it. You don't have to, I don't like that old school thought. We're like, well, if you haven't played it, you can't really, coach or manage. And I don't agree with that, obviously.
For Denver7, I'm Troy Renk.
Behind the scenes, women have played vital roles in the development of computer science and even helped NASA get its first rockets into space, writing computer code. But decades later, women continue to find themselves in the minority when entering the male-dominated field of coding. So one woman came up with a life hack. Here's Bo Evans.
There's always a need for more women in tech.
This isn't the first time Kelly Revenaugh is the only woman in the room.
I was working in tech marketing and wanted to transition over into becoming an engineer.
She decided to make a jump into software engineering. But when she started a coding boot camp, she was one of just a few women.
I went through the Hack Reactor and Galvanize software engineering program in New York in 2019. When I was going through the program, there wasn't very many women in any of these programs or in tech in general.
A study by McKinsey & Company shows women make up only a quarter of the workforce, and other statistics show they make up just 14% of software engineers. Now she's created a support group within Galvanize, the company that runs world-famous coding bootcamp Hack Reactor. It's a space where women can share their experiences, mistakes, and questions with other women.
I wanted to create a kind of like a safe and inclusive place for women to learn, to begin their road to coding.
The road that has allowed Cindy Ryu to make a career U-turn.
And shortly after graduating, I started to work as an environmental consultant. I ended up getting laid off due to COVID. I've always been interested in coding, never really had any experience with it. So I decided to apply to Hack Reactor, and I'm currently a part of their Austin cohort.
It's part of an effort by Galvanize to increase diversity in tech.
We still have only 24% of computer scientists that are women, and despite women making up half the workforce, this number is abysmal.
Sam Klein is the Director of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion with Galvanize and says the spaces created by people like Kelly are important to getting more women into tech.
The tech industry should look more like America and less like an old boys club.
The hope is that groups like the one Kelly started can create a more equitable space for women in tech.
I really wish when I was younger I did have a role model who looked like me, who I saw was like successful and like in a leadership position, or not even a leadership position, just like even very low on the totem pole, but like in the industry.
It's been really cool to see women get excited about tech and not be intimidated by it.
There are plenty of women who are available to this workforce, and it's time for us to be more invested in ensuring that we not only attract those individuals into tech, but also that we retain them.
I'm Bo Evans reporting.
Colorado is the premier capital for craft brewing, and a local woman is hoping to change the faces in the industry one brew at a time. We'll show you how when we come back. Welcome back to our Denver7 special presentation celebrating women changing history. The Centennial State is famous the world over for its craft brewing community, and the Mile High City is the premier attraction for it. But you look around at a brewery and you'll notice there aren't a lot of women of color behind the bar. Elizabeth Ruiz introduces us to a woman trying to change that.
Chantal Columna is a co-owner of Novel Strand Brewing Company in Denver, Colorado. She owns it with her husband, Tamir.
What are you doing? She said be natural. This is what I do back here.
When asking if she's seen many other women of color in the beer industry, her answer says it all.
No. Not at all.
According to a 2018 study done by the Brewers Association, Black people make up 1% of craft brewery owners. Only a small portion of those are women. Chantel's husband is the one who introduced her to craft beer in college.
There was this place called The Rock that was actually kind of a divey bar, but had some of the best craft beer selection in the area. And we would find ourselves there, often on weekends, just kind of trying different styles, talking about it.
If it hadn't been for her husband, Chantal says she isn't sure she would have discovered her love for craft beer. Eugenia Brown is trying to change that.
In all my previous craft beer jobs, I was typically the only Black girl, and so I got used to kind of being that token Black person in the space.
Eugenia is a beer tender and the founder of a platform called Beer Chick LLC. She says she wants to bring other women of color into the beer industry. So she started the Road to 100 initiative to get 100 women of color across the country certified to serve beer.
We know that historically it's very much so a white male-dominated industry. And so for these women of color who may not typically look like or what you think looks like your average beer drinker, this certification will give them the opportunity to, walk through the doors of a brewery and say, hey, I'm wanting to get a job here. Obviously, I bring with me this certain level of education, this certain beer knowledge. And so really the goal is that it serves as a foundation for these women to help kind of propel them in careers in craft beer.
Both Eugenia and Chantel say it's not that people of color don't like craft beer. They believe it's an exposure issue.
And you can look even to other industries, not necessarily just the craft beer industry, right? But even, let's say, the outdoors, skiing or climbing, hiking, all these different things that perhaps we don't see ourselves in because there's a lack of representation, perhaps there's a lack of access, simply because you don't know that that's something that people do or how you can even get started.
You can have the desire to open this craft brewery, but if you don't have the capital, if you don't have the resources, if you don't have the business relationships or the tools that you need to grow it into a successful business, then it's really hard to make it happen.
Chantel says it's those business relationships that helped Novel Strand Brewing Company get on its feet.
We had an opportunity. We had 4 different beers out in the market just from different people in different breweries that were willing to collaborate with us, play with us, and like help us raise a little bit of our brand awareness before we even got started.
Chantel says she's witnessed a shift in the industry with more women of color getting into the industry. But Eugenia says there's still a ways to go in terms of diversity, equity, and inclusion.
I would love to see more Black and minority-owned breweries across the country. I would love to see breweries in the neighborhoods owned by people that actually look like the individuals in the neighborhood.
I'm Elizabeth Ruiz reporting.
And that does it for our special presentation celebrating women changing history. Remember, you can rewatch all of these stories about these incredible women and more. Just head to our website, thedenverchannel.com. And to all of the hardworking women, moms, daughters, sisters, aunts, and grandmothers out there, thank you so much for watching. I'm Molly Henderson.